What up, y'all? We're here for our weekly anchor message. This is where we take a look at our spiritual assignments for the week ahead and see what we're going to be dealing with. If you are interested, take a look at last night's video. On Sunday, we do the energy oracle forecast for the week, where we take a look at the week ahead and see what kind of spiritual and energetic energy we will be, living in. And, then we can get an idea of what the circumstances and conditions are going to be like. And then on Monday, we go deeper into what are the lessons we're going to be focusing in on, as far as our soul growth. And then on Wednesdays, we do our alchemy message, where we take a look at the process work. And then Friday, we usually do, our message ends up being more reflective. So tonight, we are, our anchor message coming from the wild unknown archetypes. Sorry, I'm tired and I was just literally buffering. I was loading, my data was loading right then. From the wild unknown archetypes, we have the kiss. We've got the mystic. And we have the king. Clarifying the kiss, we have temperance. Clarifying the mystic, we have the star. And clarifying the king, we have the devil. Awesome. So I'm going to read the king and the mystic from the book. I think it's necessary to read from those today, because I think there's some extra layers that I definitely want the word for word book explanation. I think sometimes the wording can be very kismet. And so I have a feeling those cards are important today. Okay, so the kiss. This is like a moment that we're in right now. We're in this portal crossing through the ending of major cycles. The first half of our life paradigm basically is the closing up, and we have a chance to go forward and make a fresh new start and put a new foot forward and start to embody this up-leveled version of self. We're, getting in touch with our higher self, and we're starting to learn how to have more affinity with that version of the self that lives within us, that's trying to give us, guidance and direction and inspiration. But it takes our, healing our ego, right? In order to be able to get rid of all the noise that distracts us from that inner quiet guidance. So this moment is very transformative. We've just finished our eclipses. There's going to be sort of the influences of all of that energy over the next couple of weeks while it dissipates and while the dust settles and while change occurs and pieces are kind of moving into place. It's like the air is very charged right now. It feels like major things are about to happen. It feels like major expansion is possible. It feels like new possibilities are brewing and percolating. It feels like new people are right around the corner. It feels very exciting and charged right now, with this excited anticipation, the night before Christmas, or, a big event, a big trip or something you're excited about. But we don't know what we're excited about, right? And so we're just in this moment and hovering here, and it's kind of angsty. We don't know quite what to do with it. So right now, it's a good time to just try to settle ourselves within, try to be at peace, and try to use this opportunity to get conscious clarity around the old patterns that have become way more apparent recently that we're letting go of and we're trying to leave in the past. we're getting really clear on what those are so that we can recognize them when they're happening and when the triggers happen, and we can pause and choose differently. At the same time, it's like we're getting a clearer vision about who this version of self is that we're becoming. We just finished the last eclipse in Taurus and Scorpio, where Taurus is leading us towards the things that we really value, and the things it's helping us align our lives with things that will support our real values. And the South Node in Scorpio that was activated during this eclipse is so, like, because the eclipse happened when the moon was in the phase of Taurus, this is why the Taurus and Scorpio axes were highlighted. But the axes of the moon have literally already moved on to Aries and Libra. And so now with the North Node being in Aries, it's like we're having this new kind of awakening of self and an up-leveling of self and a different level. It's a different way that we're seeing our lives and ourself and how we want to show up and who we want to be going forward and how we want to be. And because of that, the South Node in Libra is causing us to examine our relationship to life, to work, people, substances, what have you. Anything that we have interaction with outside of ourselves, that's what Libra deals with. So we're overcoming our old toxic relationship dynamics that don't serve us anymore. That's what the South Node is about. It's about walking away from lessons we've learned and not bringing them with us any longer. And so Scorpio is about death, rebirth, change, transformation. So this is kind of like the last hoorah for, accelerated change and transformation and, cosmic support, where it pertains to pruning and adjusting your life so that you're cutting out what's not aligned and you are building affinity what is aligned with your goals, with your values, with what brings you feelings of security, what gives you a sense of beauty and purpose in life and comfort, and what makes you feel well taken care of, and what makes you feel inspired. So these themes have been highlighted. So the kiss, this is this moment where you feel like something enticing is coming, and something tasty, something that you can feel it getting closer. And there's this sense of sacred experience too right now, where, I don't know, there's this sort of brush against the spiritual realm and feelings of being kind of closer to source than we've ever been, closer to the feeling of being guided by Holy Spirit. We may be feeling deeper levels of intimacy as it pertains to knowing ourselves, deeper feelings of intimacy as it pertains to our relationship with source, with spirit. It's beginning to feel more personal, right? Closer, more real. And because of this, I think it's opening us up to having more possibility for intimate relationship, for this level of relationship to start in our life, whether this be existing relationships that are going deeper or new relationships that we're calling in because we have a deeper capacity to hold space for more intimacy. We are attracting those who also have the same capacity, whether they be friends, lovers, family members, what have you. So the kiss with Temperance, there's something about bringing the sacred into the mundane right now. I think that there's a lot of preoccupation with dealing with the material, literal aspects of our life. And so when we get too pigeonholed and, tunnel vision on material pursuits and taking care of the daily grind and just constantly just staying on top of the housekeeping and things like that, like the mundane comings and goings, we can begin to feel spiritually malnourished and hungry and starved and depleted after a while if we don't keep our perspective and our consciousness plugged into source, even in the ins and outs of our day. And so if we can bring a sense of the sacred into the mundane, this will help us not feel so spiritually depleted. But also, this is about integrating the lessons that we have learned, the wisdom that we have worked hard to go through, experiences that have been rough, that have taught us, things that we need to carry with us into the future. We are healing the baggage, from the negative effects of our experiences, and letting go of the limiting presumptions and beliefs that have been left. And instead, we have, opened ourselves up to a level of faith that has allowed us to be able to heal our perceptions, right? It's allowed us to be able to forgive the past and to let go of our fears and move into the future, less encumbered by, feeling like everything's always going to be the way it was. And so that kind of keeps you in these perpetual cycles and patterns of always reacting the same way and then always going along with the same narrative. It's like we're giving those up and we're integrating this wisdom into our new life. And so we're trying to take our time and start, forming better beliefs. We can rewrite our subconscious so that we subconsciously have positive expectations. That's possible too. We can have positive subconscious patterns. And so that's what part of the work is doing. It's trying to rewrite and heal our nervous system so that we can start responding less reactively and reflexively and more securely and on purpose with intention. And so there's a call and a need for things to be not only integrated and like with our up level so that we can start embodying this new higher self and becoming the person that we need to be to create the life that the higher self has, that the higher self would live in, right? But there's also this element of there's parts of our life that might be a bit out of balance. And so we need to bring those parts into balance without overcorrecting. We need to watch out for any areas where we might be overdoing it or underdoing it or letting things get away from us or out of control, Don't let your to-do list pile up. Don't overspend, don't overeat sugar, it's like don't neglect things, but don't overdo things either. It's like we need to have a balance. Also, this is she's very serene, and so she's got her hands open and she's taking life as she finds it in this moment. It's like my hands are open. The doves can come, they can go, right? I'm not holding on to control, right? I'm trusting. I am certain in the light of the Creator. And so I don't have to hold on to my grips of control. I'm relaxed. I am sheltered, right? By, this umbrella here that's it's almost like this, it's like passion and desire. And it's like the desire and passion within us, that's what really fuels the magnetism that we have to call in the miracles, to attract things. We can get clear on what we want and we can project those images and those visions and even speak it out loud. But it's the desire in our heart to go after something, to make an effort for something, to put passion into what we're doing because we care. That's what makes us magnetic for things to come in. And so it does feel like there is just this blessing and opportunity hovering over us at the moment, right? It's just waiting to come in. We're in the miracle zone, and that miracle juice is crystallizing over us. But what have we talked about? When we have those miracles, hovering over, the opponent is hovering nearby. And so the opponent wants us to trip up and to lose our miracle, right? Because it wants to come in and intercept all of that light and use it for the darker side. And so the opponent no matter how many times like we up level, it's not like we ever get rid of the opponent. The opponent just keeps up leveling with us. So at every different level, we just have to expect that opponent to be there, that it's going to be there, and it's going to be there at our level waiting for us to challenge us in exactly the way we think we just transcended and overcame. And so with the devil card with the king, and I haven't forgotten, I'm going to go back to Mystic and the star. It's like we have to make sure that we are in the driver's seat of our life, because if we aren't taking kingship, intentional, conscious kingship over our kingdom, the opponent will. The opponent will come in and sit on the throne and muck everything up. It will fuck up everything that we've worked hard to create. And so we have to stay grounded and seated in our sovereignty, and we have to be paying attention to the different areas of our lives so that we can maintain that. And when I say take kingship over your life, I don't want anybody to interpret that as like, I still think that divine source is the ultimate authority, but like we have to steer our ship. And it's our choice if we hold divine as our authority, but at the same time, we have to make our own sovereign free will choices, right? And so the mystic knows that the best route is to take the kingship over our life, but do it with like the co-pilot of creator, right? It's like I am in charge of taking action and making decisions and being decisive and taking responsibility and owning those. That's my spiritual, responsibility to be here. But I am consulting with the divine, right? Queen Elizabeth, for instance, Queen Regina, she has to ultimately make the call, but she is a divine channel. She is an instrument for the will of God in this world, right? And so that's how we are to be. It's like we are the divine channel for the will of God to come through, but that's up to us. Not only to perfect ourselves as a channel so we can have that affinity, and so it can come through, in a more easeful, graceful way. But we perfect ourselves as the channel, but we know that we are nothing without source. Like we don't have life force without source. We don't have opportunity without source. So it's like we know that there's something else that's lending us all that we have. It's just that we are the channel to direct that. So we have to take responsibility and own that, but also know that without creator, we have nothing, that we're an empty flesh sleeve, really. So take kingship over your life, because this week I feel like we will be opposed. We will have opposition. We will have challenge from the opponent. But I think it's because we're getting closer and closer and closer to big opportunities, to meeting key people that will make big differences in our lives, to break through our threshold of being able to make more money or have more fulfilling relationships, or finally get over an addiction or a pattern, or finally heal codependent tendencies, right? But the opponent will come to try to throw you off, to get you to fall back into an old pattern. And so you'll miss your chance, and then you'll beat yourself up about it. And then all that light, all that effort, all that power, all that miracle juice, all that magic snatched by the other side. And so right now, what is revealing and giving us even more power as this king over the sovereign of our life? Like, before I move on from the king, it's like we need to look at our mental landscape. Are we sovereign over our mindset, over our perceptions? Are we letting our mind run wild and just obsess on a tape playing over and over and over again? Or are we actually mindful about the resource of our mind? It's like we only have so much that we can focus with in a day. Look at me, I'm like barely able to talk by the time I get here. It's like we only have so much brain juice to focus. We only have so much time during the day to apply our mind and our attention to things that we want to create or to do or to experience. And so, are you taking responsibility over your mental kingdom? How are your emotions? Are you sober in your emotions, or do your emotions completely control you? Are they out of control? Are you feeling like you're caught in an abyss of any kind of emotional attack at any given point, whether it be despair or fear or lack or doubt or insecurity or jealousy? It's like, do these emotions wash over you and then paint your whole perception of everything, and then control your thoughts, and then your thoughts start going out of control? And so then you start reacting, right? Do you make your choices based on your feelings? Or do you take those into account, but you balance, right? You make your decisions with temperance, with your logic, with your wisdom, and your feelings. So we want to have self-control. And so we want to be able to have mastery over our mind and control over our emotions. It's not that we want to be completely numb or stoic, but we don't want our emotions to have complete control over us. And we can't completely believe our emotions because they can distort things, right? We have to take them with a grain of salt. And so, we're doing a lot of healing work in that area right now. And so, we've got our mental landscape, we've got our emotional landscape. How is your spiritual kingdom right now? Are you, keeping up a spiritual practice where you reflect and you tune in and you pray, and, you are taking in some kind of spiritual wisdom and nourishment? Like, are you keeping your spiritedness alive and your inner passion and drive and willpower alive? Or are you letting yourself get burned out or bored, or you're not challenged enough, or maybe you're just like overly challenged and too much is on your plate and you're getting burnt out and overwhelmed? So pay attention to that, your energy levels, your feeling of being inspired and motivated and connected to source. And then your physical realm and kingdom. Are you paying attention to just household things? Have things gotten out of control? Do you need to do like deep cleaning? Do you need to do deep clutter? Do you need to catch up on laundry? Do you need to make sure all your bills are paid because you've just been too busy? Do you need to put in a bunch of work orders with your landlord? These are mundane things that, can get away from us if we've been running around and our attention is on different things. So there may be just little mundane things around the house that you need to do, or just in your literal material mundane world, that will help take a lot of this energetic clutter out of your atmosphere. Every now and then I'll do a deep clean of the house, and I'll do a big declutter, and I'll do a bunch of those projects, and it clears the feng shui of the house so much that energy can move again, and big opportunities and fun things happen suddenly out of nowhere. It's things just start getting manifested. So yeah, if you can take some time to take on those kinds of projects right now and get them out of the way. But yeah, definitely make sure that everything in your kingdom is nice and sorted out right now, because you want to close the gaps of space that you leave open for the opponent to come in. And part of that is ego healing. I was going to go ahead and I'm going to read the mystic and the king. But the king, if in a triggered, fearful state, becomes very controlling, right? And they start acting and choosing out of fear and insecurity and lack and doubt. And then that becomes tyrannical and over-domineering, and control issues start coming out, right? And so that the king becomes then egotistical. And so we want to be the benevolent king, like King Arthur, who, wants to breed justice in a kingdom, and equality and balance and unity and brotherhood, right? And so the mystic with the star is all about healing. It's about hope. It's about big dreams and goals coming true, like the things that we're destined for, like starting to happen, starting to unfold. And so the mystic, this is the healer. This is the healer and the spiritual alchemist, who it seems like many times the mystic looks to the outer world like scattered and flighty, but they aren't. They have a very specific purpose and call, and they are the ones that are the ones transmuting all the pain all the time and making it into something of depth, something of meaning, poetry, right? And they make poetry from the pain of their lives, within their lives, right? And so the mystic right now, it's like we're in this moment where we're in between, and so much of the spiritual healing can happen right now. And the more of the spiritual healing that we do in ourselves, the more magic that we will have to manifest from going into this new start, right? It gives us extra strength, extra power, extra confidence, extra certainty, which calls in better quality things and makes us strong enough to say no and discern the things that aren't good enough right now, that aren't up to the level, that aren't in alignment anymore. We can say no and hold out and wait for what is right. We're seeing too how our experiences are integrating into what we want, who we want to be moving forward. We're seeing how it all kind of played together and works in coordination with one another to make way for something else to unfold. But yeah, this is definitely a moment that's really charged. And so if we can embrace the feeling of being opposed, if we can embrace the challenge put in front of us by the opponent and take it on happily, then that gives us extra edge, extra magical power. It's like when nothing difficult is happening, I keep starting to talk about this recently and then I keep getting sidetracked. But the great sages, the great prophets, it was because of their literally biblical level tragedies and intense dramas that happened to them that made them the badasses and the wise people that they were. It wasn't because they had an easy life where everything just played out very straightforward and they got to like fly under the radar and, you know, just chill. It was because they had to face things that other people don't ever have to face. It was because, you know, they spent 12 years in slavery and, you know, then after that they got to be the head of the storehouse of Egypt. It was because, you know, they were abandoned as a baby and thrown into a river, that they were adopted by the Egyptian royalty, that they had, you know, the ability to be able to lead a whole people away from a nation, you know, and like leave slavery. It's like Abraham, you know, had to wait until his old age to have his son, and then was told to sacrifice the son, was willing to do it, even though it went against like everything he thought was made sense. It went against everything inside. He had to do this on faith. The son was redeemed only for his wife to die like shortly thereafter. And it's like you wonder, oh, you know, like why they did the right thing. Like, why didn't it pay off? And it's not that it didn't pay off. It's just that when we're here on earth, like if most people, the average people, just maintain the status of good and evil, the status quo, they keep whatever the levels are kind of even, and we don't tip too far one way or the other. And so we're always kind of battling light and dark, and we're always sort of like kind of keeping it about just about even. except for every now and then in history, there will be these extreme time periods that bring, like World War II and World War I, and those extreme periods of darkness and light on the planet, where dark and light are fighting, and it's very obvious and very in the forefront. Otherwise, it's always just this low hum of like kind of like maintaining a balance or the status quo. So during those times of just status quo and low hum, the average person isn't changing, isn't fighting evil. We're just treading water. And so that's why it takes the mystics, the sages, the prophets, light workers that go through things and weird tragedies and have all these challenges. It's like, that's why the seekers, the spiritual seekers, are more challenged. That's why it's like when you become a spiritual student, all of a sudden like life starts throwing you like all kinds of like, I don't know, challenges and throws you for a loop. And it's because you actually have signed up for this. Because we are all given this specific amount of like spiritual density to transmute in this life. And we do a little bit here and there. And, you know, when we learn our lessons or we go through something hard and it's difficult, like, it's like we transmute a little bit. But it's those really intense times where we overcome big stuff that helps us really transmute that density, and it's forever turned from darkness into light. When you really heal something within you, you have awakening and you have an epiphany, that's darkness that would have perpetuated in the cosmos as anger, confusion, ignorance, separation, division, would have perpetuated in echoes of that forever, has now been changed, has now been healed and redeemed, and is now going to be transmuted into generosity, patience, caring, unity, brotherhood, joy, love, creativity, creative force. So it pushes the scale towards good. Every time those big sages overcame something dark and tragic in their lives, it would reveal so much wisdom, so much power, so much strength. And then, because they were prepared in such a way, they were exalted in this life, and they were given positions of wealth and power and privilege and joyous times too, and times of prosperity. And for many years, it's just that they had heavy, intense things to experience in this life, because they were strong enough, because they were devoted enough to stick with it and push the needle forward to fight darkness, right? So that's why like bad things happen to even good people. It's not that we have taken on something and deserve a punishment. It's just, this is our purpose in life. We're all assigned this. We all have our own lot, and it's up to us what we do with it and how much we, change in this life and grow. And once we're out of these physical bodies, we can't transmute that energy anymore. It's here, it's in the material world that we do all this work, that we have a chance to transform and grow and transcend our ego. We can't do that in the afterlife, or once we go beyond this realm. That's why the humanity is so important. That's why the material, our material manifestation as beings in this realm is so important. If everything was perfect and there was nothing to correct and nothing to change, there wouldn't be any need for this physical realm. We would just be spirits taking things in visually and energetically, but we wouldn't need to physically consume anything or, have any sense of touch and feel. It wouldn't matter. But being here on earth, like the whole reason we have an earth is because we have stuff to do here. So we shouldn't shame ourselves for our faults and our shadow. It's just as valid as any of the other parts of ourself. It's just that we need to be intentional about healing that. Okay, Mystic. I'll hold that up with the star card. The seeker, the light worker, the dreamer. The mystic is often misunderstood in our culture, depicted as wandering or a lighthearted daydreamer. Yet like Shiva, the true mystic plays a critical role in society, remaining fearlessly dedicated to the path of transformation. In order to save the earth from darkness, Shiva swallows the poison of the world and holds it in his throat, slowly transmuting the liquid into nectar. This is the work of the mystic. They do not fear darkness, but rather sit in the presence of it, harness the potential and latent energy behind it, and embed it with light. Now, isn't that interesting? That's exactly what this fairy angel person is doing in the star card. They are sitting in the darkness in the presence of it, harnessing potential and latent energy behind it, and embedding it with light. Now, the darkness, think about that. That's what we just talked about. Harness the potential and latent energy behind it. Now, every time we overcome a fear in our heart, or a prejudice, or a grudge, or something we need to forgive, or we overcome an ego pattern that we have, and it becomes revealed to us, and we're like, oh my gosh, I can finally see it now, and we start to overcome that. That's called breaking shells of Klipot. Klipot is the negative layers that build up over that spirit light within you, that source light that's radiating from within. And that inner light, that reveals the potential that you already have within you to make things happen. Your surrounding light is the potential that you haven't revealed yet. And so the surrounding light around you is all that could be if you can evolve and get there. The light within you is what you're already capable of. And so as you break these shells of Klipot, so the pressure is always coming down on you as the surrounding light is like your potential. And that is what's causing you to have experiences that put you face to face with the shells of negativity so that you can break them. As you break them, you reveal the inner light, which makes it easier for you to meet challenges, to navigate life and bypass challenges, to be productive and to be successful in life and to be able to tap into that higher self, right? It's the surrounding light, the pressure, that's where you need to grow. That's where it's like, oh, I need to swim more laps so I can swim faster in my swim meet. It's like, that's where I learn the lessons so that I can be a better this or that or show up better in life. The surrounding light is like, oh, this is the potential that I have to be a good partner, but I first need to go through experiences and educate myself on how to have good relationships, right? But the inner light that I have, that's where I'm already good at relationship, or that's the understanding that I've already embodied. So it's like every time we break these or die to these beliefs or stop doing these habits or these patterns, it's like it opens up more light on the inside, giving us more inherent power to go through life in more ease and harmony. And when we have more light revealed, it's like we have more affinity with the creator, more affinity with source. And so we vibrate with that. We resonate with that light. And it's easier for us to connect with miracles without it being chaotic, right? And dissonant. And so the potential in life is just this raw, dark, raw force. And it's what we do with it, what we take from it, and the shape and the discipline and the restriction that we can place around it that creates something that reveals that potential. Like having the discipline to follow through and study something and graduate, or having the discipline to master a skill and execute that, or start a business and market that business. You know, it's about building the skills, the strength, and then execution. So yes, lighting up the darkness, actually doing something with that potential. And then in seeing that when we're challenged, that's an opportunity, because otherwise when we're not challenged, it's like we're just kind of going through the status quo of life. It's like when we come face to face with a fear, that's when we have a chance. As like a Mario, like say we're in the game Mario, we don't earn points unless we jump on the bad guy, right? And so we're not revealing that light in ourselves unless we're overcoming a little bit of fear, right? Get an unexpected bill, try paying it without worrying about it. You start to worry about it, you're like, you know what? No, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to be abundant. That is one of those moments where you're breaking a fear and you're revealing sparks of light, right? And so basically what that means is that you're making yourself a more powerful manifester. You're making yourself a more effective person in the world at doing whatever you're trying to put your hand to. Let's see. But yeah, when everything's just going well and there's nothing going wrong, it's like there's not a lot of opportunity for real growth or real deep healing in those moments. Let's see. They are patient and prudent change makers seeking growth above all else. Unanswerable questions are the mystic's lifeblood. The mystic revels in mystery, in the great riddle of life, dancing with the forces of light and dark upon its wings. Like any light worker, the mystic builds a relationship with fire. This begins by awakening the inner flame. So fire has been coming up recently as like an element that we should be working with. Like we need to stoke the flame of fire within. We need to renew our passion and our drive and our willpower. It may seem like the mystic is inward facing, yet its light beams back to the world with the strength of 1,000 stars. So again, the more inner work you do, the more we turn inward to do the healing work on ourselves, to break apart that grime that's built up, those negative shells of klipat. Our light is revealed into the world and it radiates out of us and it affects those around us and it uplifts the environments around us. So in light, this is the remover of darkness, visionary, ageless. When dark, expects results, seeks attention and recognition. Okay, and then the king was the other one I wanted to read. The ruler, the commander, the emperor. If our lives are imagined as a kingdom containing the entire spectrum of human experience, the king presides over it all. Through the lens of the king, we assess the state of our land, make decisions, and rule accordingly. Therefore, the king must be thoroughly and regularly vetted so as to avoid corruption. And again, if you're going through challenges, not only if you're meeting them with a glad heart and with consciousness, knowing that you're doing this and that it's doing its work on you and within you. But there's also like we have to stay regularly vetted, meaning like we can't rest on our laurels. We can't give up and then like go back to like being spiritually lazy and spiritually sloppy. And so if we do, then the universe will come with a little ruler and slap our wrist and be like, hey, are you paying attention? Because you have to stay in alignment. You have to maintain your vibration. This is a constant upkeep. This is a discipline. It's not a one and done. It has to be, it's a devotion. It's a commitment. And so as the spiritual seeker, you are put under something called the direct supervision of the light. And so as a spiritual seeker and student, once you start knowing better than to do things, if you do things that you know are wrong, you will experience immediate backlash. You will experience an immediate correction or like an immediate, like something's off and it's like a sign like, hey, you need to get back on track. That's like that being regularly vetted. Therefore, the king must be thoroughly and regularly vetted so as to avoid corruption. Recognize the dual nature of the king. He is either seated in benevolence and strength, guiding you toward peace, or he is oppressing the weak out of a need to control. There's not much middle ground. Some think of the king as the ultimate expression of the ego, yet the great kings of mythology and history serve from an egoless place. They take their throne with grace and humility, knowing the divine uses them as a channel to heal deep and long-standing discrepancies in the kingdom. Benevolence, divine leadership, service, nobility. That's when light. When dark, oppression, misuse of power, and corruption. Once the king's relationship to divinity is broken or challenged, he often acts from a place of fear, scrambling to uphold his image and power. You know, over the weekend, there was a card that talked about a character who is very emotionally stoic on the outside because they don't want to be seen as weak. So think about that. Once the king's relationship to divinity is broken or challenged, he often acts from a place of fear, scrambling to uphold his image and power. So be careful if you are tempted to act coldly or overly harshly or in a controlling manner to save face or for the sake of your pride. The king is necessary. He is the bridge between the eternal and the day-to-day. It is also said that it is necessary for the king to die. This is the death of the ego. So again, the bridge between the sacred and the everyday, that integrating the mundane within the sacred and making the mundane the sacred is part of your kingship. It's taking pride and taking ownership into all the areas of your life and bringing the divinity into that, and bringing that sacred into the mundane. All right, you guys, I think that we've covered everything that I was wanting to talk about. Tomorrow is Halloween, and it will be our Totally Tuesday Manifestation Oracle reading. So I'm going to probably do that video early because I have plans. I'm going to hand out candy to the trick-or-treaters, and I'm going to have a few friends come over here, and then we're going to go trick-or-treating and go out for cocktails at this cute little tavern-y place close by. So I will probably not be on tomorrow night. So I'm going to try to get our video early. And yeah, you guys have a good Halloween. Happy Halloween tomorrow. Ciao.